You've worked all week and now it's Friday afternoon. You're tired, maybe even a little burned out, but there's something different about this weekend. Because instead of staying home or driving a couple of hours for a getaway, you're about to walk onto a floating city, step into a world of music, food, laughter, and endless ocean views. By the time Monday morning comes, you'll have collected sunsets, cocktails, new memories, and maybe even a tan, all without even touching an airport. Weekend cruises are one of the best-kept secrets in travel. You don't need 2 weeks of vacation. You don't need to fly halfway around the world. You just need a couple of days, a bag with some essentials, and the curiosity to let the sea carry you somewhere new. And today, we're exploring the top 5 weekend cruises you can take right here in the USA. Voyages that begin the moment you set foot on deck and don't stop delivering joy until you roll your suitcase back onto shore. Let's begin in Miami. You're standing at the port of Miami, one of the busiest cruise ports in the world, with ships so massive they look like skyscrapers floating on water. As you check in, there's a buzz in the air. Families wrangling kids, couples holding hands, groups of friends ready for adventure. You hand over your boarding pass, step across the gangway, and suddenly you're in another world. Maybe you're on Royal Caribbean's Freedom of the Seas, where the Royal Promenade stretches out like a mall at sea, lined with cafes, shops, and bars. Or maybe you chose Carnival Conquest, where the atmosphere is pure fun. Colorful, lively, with music pumping and bartenders already shaking cocktails. As you walk up to the top deck and look back at Miami's skyline glowing in the late afternoon sun, a steel drum band starts playing. You sip your first drink, lean on the railing, and watch the city fade away as the ship turns toward the turquoise waters of the Bahamas. By the time you wake up Saturday morning, you're in Nassau. The water is so blue it almost looks unreal, like someone turned up the saturation on the world. You step off the ship, greeted by pastel-colored buildings, horse-drawn carriages, and vendors selling conch fritters. You could head straight to Atlantis Resort for water slides and aquariums, or take a boat to Blue Lagoon Island where dolphins leap out of the sea just feet away from you. Or maybe you prefer the quieter Half Moon Cay, a private island owned by Carnival, where the sand feels like powdered sugar under your feet. If you're on Royal Caribbean, you might be docking at Coco Cay, their private island paradise with the tallest water slide in North America, and cabanas that sit right over the water. But here's the best part. You don't need to rush. You know the ship is waiting. You know your room, your meals, your entertainment. It's all included. You just have to choose how you want your perfect Bahamian Saturday to look. And then, Saturday night, you're back on board. Maybe you're sitting in the main dining room with a multi-course meal, or grabbing late-night pizza after a comedy show. Maybe you're dancing under the stars on the pool deck, or watching Broadway-style entertainment in the theater. You go to sleep with the ocean rocking you gently, and by Sunday morning you're cruising back toward Miami, refreshed, energized, and amazed at how much adventure fit into just one weekend. Now let's head to the other side of the country. Picture Los Angeles on a Friday afternoon. The traffic is as wild as ever, but you've managed to make it to the port of Long Beach, where the iconic Carnival Radiance is waiting for you. This ship specializes in quick getaways, usually down the coast to Ensenada, Mexico. You board, grab a taco at Blue Iguana Cantina, or a Guy Fieri burger by the pool, and then climb to the top deck just in time to watch the California coastline drift away. The Pacific air is cooler, crisper, but the vibe is just as electric as any Caribbean sailing. By Saturday morning, you're in Ensenada, a small but lively Mexican port town with its own charm. Maybe you book an excursion to the Guadalupe Valley, Mexico's premier wine country, where rolling vineyards produce bottles that rival Napa's best. You sip a glass of red, pair it with local cheese, and look out at the sun setting over endless vines. Or maybe you want something more adventurous, like visiting La Bufadora, one of the world's largest marine geysers where seawater shoots up 100 feet into the air. Of course, you can always just wander downtown, stopping for shrimp tacos, margaritas, and a little souvenir shopping. And here's the beauty. After a full day of exploring, you head back to the ship for more fun. Water slides, comedy shows, casinos, and live music. By Sunday, you're sailing back up the coast, watching dolphins leap alongside the ship. You return to Los Angeles sun-kissed, relaxed, and feeling like you managed to slip away to another world without even leaving the West Coast. But maybe you're in the mood for something different. Cooler air, pine-scented breezes, and scenery that feels a little more romantic. For that, you head up north to Seattle. From here, you can hop on a short cruise to Victoria, British Columbia, just across the border in Canada. Holland America and Princess Cruises both offer these 2-night getaways, and they're perfect for when you want something beautiful, relaxing, and just a little bit elegant. You board the ship in Seattle, watch the Space Needle shrink into the horizon, and sail through waters dotted with islands and mountains. By the next morning, you're in Victoria, a city that feels like Europe tucked onto the edge of Canada. You stroll through Butchart Gardens, where millions of flowers bloom in vibrant displays, or stop for high tea at the Fairmont Empress Hotel, sipping Earl Grey from fine china as horse-drawn carriages clip-clop past. It's a slower, gentler kind of cruise. Perfect for couples, perfect for anyone who wants to slow down and breathe. By Sunday evening, you're back in Seattle, refreshed and a little more in love with life than when you left. Now let's fly back east. Imagine boarding a ship in New York City, the skyline glittering behind you, the Statue of Liberty watching as you set sail. Norwegian Cruise Line offers weekend trips from Manhattan to Bermuda, and they're unlike anything else. You leave Friday evening, watching the city lights fade into the distance, and by Sunday morning, you're stepping onto pink sand beaches and turquoise water. Bermuda has this perfect mix of British charm and island beauty. Pastel cottages, afternoon tea, scooter rides along the coast, and caves filled with crystal-clear pools. You spend your day snorkeling, exploring, maybe even golfing if you're up for it. And then you return to the ship, where Broadway-style shows and rooftop lounges keep the night alive. By Monday morning, you're sailing back toward New York, the skyline rising once again, and you can't help but think. It feels like you lived a whole other life in just 2.5 days. And finally, we head south to Texas. From Galveston, Royal Caribbean and Carnival both run weekend trips to Cozumel, Mexico. This is a classic escape for Texans and Midwesterners alike because in just a couple of nights you can go from barbecue to beachside margaritas. You board Liberty of the Seas or Carnival Breeze, wave goodbye to the Gulf Coast, and by Saturday, you're in Cozumel. The island is famous for its reefs, some of the best snorkeling and diving in the world. You slip on your mask, dive into warm waters, and find yourself surrounded by schools of colorful fish, coral gardens, and maybe even a sea turtle or two. If you prefer land, you can tour ancient Mayan ruins, sip tequila on a tasting tour, or just rent a scooter and explore the island at your own pace. Cozumel is laid back, but it's got just enough energy to keep things interesting. By Sunday, you're back on deck, watching the Gulf waters roll by as the sun sets. By Monday morning, you're back in Galveston, with the taste of salt on your lips and memories that feel like they came from a much longer vacation. Here's the secret about weekend cruises. They don't just give you a trip, they give you a reset. In 3 days, you can break your routine, taste new flavors, dance to new music, wake up in a new country, and still be home in time for work. You don't need weeks off. You don't need months of planning. You just need the decision to go. And once you do, the sea does the rest. So next time you feel the itch for adventure but don't have the time for a long vacation, remember, there's a ship waiting right here in the USA, ready to take you somewhere unforgettable. Whether it's the Bahamas, Mexico, Bermuda, Canada, or beyond, the world is closer than you think. Because in the end, a weekend cruise isn't just about where you go, it's about how you feel. The excitement of departure, the joy of discovery, the peace of the ocean. And those feelings, they're always worth the trip. If you enjoyed this journey, make sure to subscribe to Plan My Trip, because this is just the beginning. There are so many more adventures waiting, and the next one could be yours.